Hello, my name is Ran and this is my channel No Stomach Living.
Yoink!
Now the most common question I get is,
So, how do you eat?
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 yes, how do you eat? I guess I eat just like a normal person. The better question probably is, what do I eat? So let's get into it. Basically, I need to eat smaller meals more regularly of food that's easily digestible, high in protein, relatively high in fat and low in carbohydrates. I tend not to eat food that is sort of hard to digest, like raw vegetables or tough steak, for example. I was never really a steak man, besides I'm married to a vegan. Over time my body has been able to adapt. I have been able to eat things like grated carrot, even finely sliced cabbage if it's in a good dressing. So what would a normal days of eating look like for me? I usually start the day with a smoothie. This normally has a couple of bananas, a couple of cut up mango cheeks, some frozen berries, some spinach, chia seeds, a bit of protein powder, maybe some cocoa or raw cacao, and oat milk or soy milk. Lunch, especially on the weekends, might be scrambled eggs, just 2 eggs with avocado on gluten-free bread, and I'll talk about gluten later, with some spinach, perhaps some coriander on top, and if I have some, I'll put some sauerkraut on it. Yum. My favourite dinner at the moment is a pumpkin dal with some veggies in it, and often I'll have a small piece of meat. And these are all very small portions, and I'll try and eat snacks regularly in between meals. So this is now, and my body's had a couple of years to adjust and heal, and the small intestine area has had time to expand so it can accommodate more food than it did straight after the surgery. Straight after the surgery, it was nil by mouth for 3 days. Yep, 3 days without any type of food. I remember the time I had my first sip of water, a nurse had to sit there and I was just nervously about to take my first sip of water because they had to be really sure that the joint between the esophagus and the small intestine was healed up perfectly and there was going to be no leakage. So it turned out that was fine, and from there I was allowed to progress on to clear fluids. So I was allowed to have water, tea, broth, or just any other clear liquids. After a couple of days I was able to progress to the puree stage. I've got to tell you now, there is nothing quite as bad as pureed lamb casserole, even if it is artfully smeared on the plate. Yep, pureed lamb casserole is a crime against humanity. I still have nightmares about it. Hopefully I never have to go back again, hopefully. At this stage, a typical breakfast would be some runny porridge, small amount of yogurt, and perhaps some juice, all small portions. Lunch was normally soup, then I'd have some puree for dinner, and then I would have ice cream. They love you to eat ice cream when your stomach's been taken out. This would be supplemented by high protein and normally milk-based products such as Sustagen or Ensure. And I try not to have them now, but at the time they did recommend that I have them. And I know some people who don't have stomachs actually develop a lactose intolerance. So normally I try and avoid dairy products if I can, though I do have a little bit of cheese. I don't think I can give up cheese. So after the pureed stage comes soft foods. A typical breakfast for me would be a small portion of runny porridge, which isn't as bad as it sounds, perhaps some yogurt or some soft cereal. I would have a smoothie for morning tea, followed by 2 scrambled eggs for lunch, and then some more smoothie for afternoon tea. Dinner would normally be some mashed vegetables, perhaps some puree, yay puree, and then once again followed by ice cream for dessert. They really want you to have that ice cream. I remember they told me I should consider having ice cream 3 times a day. It's also, I do like ice cream, but 3 times a day, no. And if anything, this stage can be a little bit boring because you're eating the same types of foods over and over again. So I couldn't wait for that stage to finish. Now I did tend to push things a little bit and experimented with foods that many people probably wouldn't try without a stomach. Some stuff that might have been a little bit grainy or seedy, maybe a little bit more than other people are eating. I can't help it, I'm a bit of a guts. So after a couple of weeks, the body's adjusted to this new normal and has been able to adapt. Everything's expanded slightly, everything is healed, is a little bit more robust. So you're closer to what would be considered a normal diet, albeit with smaller portions and regular snacks in between meals. I remember at that time I was eating quite a few times a day, very small meals. I remember also I had to avoid spicy foods. I had a couple of times where things didn't work out too well then. And I also think I was fortunate in that the worst that would happen to me if I ate too much would be that I would evacuate. Things would hurt for a little while, but it wasn't too bad in the end. And again, I think I was very lucky. I know a lot of people really struggle. So there's a few other things I need to be wary of. One of these is dumping syndrome. This is when too much food hits your small intestine at one time. This can be pretty unpleasant. It can include hot flushes, nausea, dizzy spells, discomfort in the abdomen, and it can be triggered by refined sugars, too much fatty foods, or even just too much food. So these are things I try to avoid. Another thing I need to be careful of is obviously overeating. I'm different from a lot of people. A lot of people without stomachs don't actually feel hungry. I feel hungry all the time, sometimes even when I've eaten a lot of food. I do have to be careful and just make sure I'm only eating a small portion. Don't put too much on the plate. Supplements. The body can't digest some nutrients as easily as it used to be able to with the stomach removed. So for example, B12 is not absorbed outside of the stomach, though I use a B12 spray under the tongue, and that seems to have done the trick. It's been about 2.5 years since my stomach was removed, and I haven't had to have any other type of supplements. I know many people have to get regular B12 injections, so I feel I'm pretty fortunate there so far. I also take iron supplements because iron isn't as readily absorbed by the body, and I also take calcium. My calcium supplement is really unpleasant tasting, and I don't seem to be able to get it to taste nice by putting it in any other type of combination. In addition, I take vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, and a supplement named Puree, which has a whole lot of good stuff in it. Oh, I also take protein powder. I use Sun Warrior protein powder. It's good, it's delicious. As I mentioned, I was going to talk about gluten. Now, I don't have any type of gluten intolerance or anything like that, but I have noticed over time that bread just doesn't sit well in my system as it once used to, and it can actually be quite a lot to digest. So I found this awesome brand of gluten-free bread which tastes delicious. It's great and it doesn't tend to cause me any discomfort, which is what I like when I'm eating food. So I hope this helped answer some of your questions about how people without stomachs eat or what they eat. If you've got any questions, I'd love to hear them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I've obviously left a lot of stuff out. If you've got any questions or comments, please put them down and I will try to answer them. If you'd like to hear more from me on this channel, please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you want to get notifications whenever I release a new video, which will hopefully be often. Yes. Thank you.